Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we are back to Shadowverse. So we have hit episode 9. This is the revelation, I suppose. The questions here are many in that it seems like the story after the Guild War just abruptly ended, and then at that point they got a different writing team, which at some points feels like it may have been a third-party contracted out writing team that was just fulfilling their contract by having a lot of flashbacks and repeated dialogue. But we've had the same story going over the course of episode 5 all the way to episode 9, which would have been like over the course of a year and a half to 2 years, where previously like episode 1 and episode 2 seemed like it was its own thing, which I imagine that happened in the first year, and then I imagine the Guild War happened in over the course of the second year. So year 3 through 4 seems to all have been connected, with the main bad guy being mostly Baphomet, although Baphomet really didn't play any role in episode 7 or 8. He just kind of showed up in voiceover at the end of episode 8. There's a lot of questions here though. Is there a full 12 to 15 chapters in this? Or not? If I finish this, does it automatically then unlock in episode 10? And then potentially a 11, 12, 13, and 14? Which is what they seem to be indicating. The main problem here is you have these numbers here, and I've been calling them episodes. That would be the right term, but maybe being that this is a Korean-made game for a Japanese market first, maybe they mean that these are chapters. If these are chapters, we don't know what the sub-chapters then are. Like, they would be labeled as chapters. So we're back to the previous world, which I assume means for a brief moment here we are going to see Tetra and her two sisters and the 4 leaders that were in this world. And I imagine that they're going to have some kind of fight, or maybe not. Maybe Baphomet is just going to escape, and that'll be that. After this point, if there's no more main story, good. Main story as an experience has been super long. We can do the practice mode, and then I can be done with the solo content of this game and just focus on actually playing the game. We're getting weird backstory. Baphomet's being written completely different here.
Tell me, Nerva. Tell us we're the worthy one. You chose me. You chose us for a reason, right?
Baphomet, what are you doing? You're asking her to take away your humanity.
Don't lump me in with you.
Yeah, it feels like they rewrote a previous scene.
We're me. I'm above you, human filth. We're Baphomet Ardalite.
And see, this does open up the idea that a lot of this backstory may be written way better in Japanese.
Loathsome insects. You just love to test us, don't you?
And so now he's got one of those vessel type depictions where he's taking up the full screen.
Bingo, bango, bongo. Now, oh great one, cover us in metallic flesh. Make me into a monster.
Yeah, he's being written completely differently.
Do it, I said. Anything for that sweet, sweet unlimited knowledge. No longer with the secrets of the
We still don't know
universe
if these
kept from
events
me.
are
Even yours,
the past of
Nerva.
Natra, but I'm assuming they aren't.
He just disappeared. Is he gone?
Coward. It is
more likely that he vanished into another dimension.
Likely enough.
That's
Where would
probably
he
the
go?
first time they've used the word
Why?
dimension instead of another world.
Will the monotony never cease?
So it seems like these robots are probably
You're bored already?
just gonna attack.
Complaint find few moments worthy of compliment. But I suppose staying positive is a tall order given the circumstances.
And they have to reintroduce Mono. They have to
Why have they
reintroduce
appeared again?
Tattoo. They have to reintroduce everybody.
Dear old Belphomet. The enforcers are programmed to go ballistic when his biosignals go kaput.
We quickly shut down the enforcer foundries, so there should be a limit to their numbers. But I do not know if we truly have the advantage.
And see,
Right.
unless
Spare too much time fighting.
Virga
Not with him on the loose.
Magma was
He's a
somewhere
bad man.
here,
He's up to something awful. Just like
then
what he did to my sisters.
the only way this world could be
He'll
natural
never do mean things again.
is if this is them defeating Belphomet the first time, then
Chosen to become a vessel
several
for
hundred
the
years to
Baphomet.
thousands of years happen to the point where they find Virga Magma,
Not after I
and
their web myself.
and at that point
But that doesn't mean I'll afford you any mercy.
a
Even
second
if I have to
catastrophe
cross 100 more
happens.
dimensions, mark my words. I will.
And I
see you
don't know if
finished.
there's really a reason why you would want to have the same world have multiple catastrophes happen upon itself.
This part is all wrong. And this frame. What the hell? Who designed this dumb thing?
I don't know why you would think Nerva would be smart
So this
enough
is
to.
my arm.
Uh,
Your engineering skills leave something to be desired, Nerves. You may be some cosmic horror or whatever, but you ain't me.
yeah, I don't know why she would know how to do anything.
Thou art but a mortal fool, unworthy
Like-
of vesselship.
Like, she doesn't seem to have much electronic technology. You
And
see these
yet, there is a role
lines,
for thee to play.
yeah,
Thou wilt
which this
receive
might be like
power,
some kind of virtual
and in
reality
exchange,
indication.
thou wilt
But
heed
everything
my
else here
command.
looks like it is crystal magic more than
Invade
anything
nature's
else.
haven,
Maybe
conquer
this
the
is supposed to be a
Great Mother,
giant gear.
and her reign. If thou succeedeth, thou wilt await further instruction.
So she straight up sends her the natural.
None of that made any sense. But hey, I'm your guy as long as the deal's sweet enough. Just know
Nerva's
I
being
have
written the
to
same
supplement
weirdness.
organic plane. You'd better make this worth my while.
But Belphomet here's.
I'm talking
I don't even know if this is the
omniscience,
same
baby. And
voice
yes,
actor.
I better know every damn factoid in the universe.
Like, everything before he was just depicted as just a
I know what you're doing.
childish
Toss
character
your footing in the background
and
pulling my strings like
who
a
was
puppet.
just swinging on his own
Body you've
whims.
made for me. So stupid.
Yeah, I don't even know why she would have made him a robotic body instead of just.
Stupefyingly acceptable. Engineering ain't the career for you, but I can tell you did your best. Ooh, was I your muse? Feel like you owe me for that.
Seems like he's irritating her.
Green world, big mama, murderize everything. Sounds simple enough. You can go ahead and skedaddle now, Nerves.
Do not fail me.
So Nerva seems to be fairly incompetent and weak, much like Nexus, in that she has to send someone else out to attack in her place.
The hell? Oh,
And now you have him
soil.
with just a ton of junk.
It's enough to make you.
You see a big gear.
Oh, wait. Is this hunk of tree? Could it be? Big Mama! You asleep, doll face? I see why Nerves wants you dead. because you've got all that delectable, ingestible mana.
So, if Belvamat's not the person that had them sucking the life,
Can't believe she's got me out here doing her dirty work.
then we still don't know who the advisor was in the
We
past.
take what I want.
So it's not like the story really
Time's a wasting.
works.
Crush short the break in
It really does feel like there's
unsuspecting
2 or 3 different people writing the story and nobody wrapped it up. This is like Star Wars episode 7, then 8, then 9. Where they just had different directors that didn't want to work together.
Just pipe down and listen up. Hey, insects, wallowing in your iddle-widdle lives down there.
Here's a question. How is anybody hearing this transmission? None of them had any kind of like radio receivers. So is he just transmitting this directly into their brains? Like, nobody has any kind of technology that would receive a transmission, so it shouldn't sound technological. If you were going to have this happen, then each one of them should have had a crystal, which would have then run into the problem of them saying there was only 3 crystals in the first place, which then runs into the problem of why did they say there was only 3 crystals in the first place? But yeah, if each one of them did have a crystal and then he hacked into the crystals and transmitted from that, that's at least something. Instead, they just left it where it is. Interesting, so when you click here, it's just gonna have a little animation to this. Which one has to assume that the 4 heroes from the previous world are gonna give chase and travel here. Otherwise, this might be a very short experience where the second group of people fight Belphomet. Now, I found the previous episode to be written pretty poorly. So far, I would say 6 out of 10 for what we've seen. A lot of that being hamstrung by the previous episodes and their bad writing. But there is a chance here we might get back up to 7, 7.5. Even, I think we've maxed out. We've kind of like maxed out to 7.8. It seems like they're more and more willing to use modern language, which maybe the localization team has. Like, this is the exact same thing we just saw. So they're literally repeating the same thing that was said in the previous chapter. Did I click on the wrong thing? And see, this is what... No, this is new dialogue. Now.
The tyrant that Tetra warned us about.
So either each subchapter is released at different times, like months apart, which would justify the repeating, and it barely justifies the repeating of dialogue at that point. Or we're still in this situation where the writer, whether they are first party or third party employed, have just a minimum number of words that have to be written for each main story section, and they are stretching it out with repeated content. There's no reason to bring back the loyalists and the radicals.
I can't move my legs.
This is no ordinary foe.
Eris, you thinking what I'm thinking? If he's come here...
Now, in theory...
No. What if he's already brought doom to Tetra's world?
In theory, these people would already be somewhere close to the Vergram magma.
They did not lose their lives at the hands of Baphomet.
So they seem to have left her and gone back to kind of where Balion's castle is.
I know they are.
And it seems like
Worrying
even
about them
though
won't do us any good
Baphomet
now.
hated
Focus, Arisa.
technology, he seems to somewhat integrate with it fairly well,
Erica,
or
this is certainly
at least be able to create robotic things with whatever might be secretly hidden underground in a world like this. One would assume that there could be entire underground cities hidden below.
Reunited once more. I have nothing to fear from these ivy demons.
I don't really see a major reason to want to stick around and deal with Balion or any of the other characters from this world.
But they don't want to be friends, that's for sure.
These gnarly little tubies are popping out all over the place. GROs.
Latica still
Falls on us to protect
talking
and care
the
from
way
this
she
scourge.
did, although maybe they've toned it down a little bit. We'll have to see if she talks more to figure that out.
Pull me, whiskers! What are these regal fittings?
Cold, unliving, with a form not unlike ivy. Are we really being invaded by demonic weeds? Just when I had gotten accustomed to the idea
And
of
his
doldrums of
drain
peaceful
life ability
this world never ceases to
probably
vex
isn't a
me.
drain mana ability,
People of the forest. Our
so
war is
I don't think he'll be particularly useful against the fight against Baphomet.
Rally your tired bodies. Draw your dull blades. We must become like the wind.
Clearly, Aether and mana, whatever you want to call it, is more of a threat to the Keepers than any kind of like technological development. And at a certain point, even Baphomet's robots were all running off of mana, so there is clearly a fantasy base to any science fiction that happens here. It's not science first, then fantasy. It's fantasy first and magic first, then science on top of that. And at a certain point, if you put too much science
Easily defeated.
around the concept of magic, it becomes fairly boring.
We're warriors too.
At a certain point, you would only do that for things like Dungeons and Dragons, where you needed some kind of rule set and explanation. There's
Everyone listen up.
there's a whole level system that I couldn't fully explain, but there is like a whole level system of types of spells that one can cast, and whether you have to be a deity or god tier character to be able to cast certain types of spells.
Rowan, ready?
Come what may, we shall carry on. I will pray for your safety.
Once again, we're
Baphomet
kind of
are the
having
light. We'll stop you. No matter
a
what you
round
throw at us.
robin of having each of the characters speak so that you remember who they are and kind of just remember what the relationships and the attitudes of each of the main characters are, which
I'll be fine.
you don't
Good luck out there.
probably need.
Same to you.
I suppose if you were just playing the multiplayer,
This forest has seen enough
You-
pain.
you could probably go
Too many have
like
lost
6
their
months and forget really
lives. I won't
the
give up now.
the minor details
Sarah
of
finally found
a
peace.
leader like Arissa
If I
or
don't work to protect
Isabel,
this world,
and
then
there
everyone's
might be
efforts
an
will have been for
argument to going back and trying to remind people as far as how they talk and how they act. In a weird way, a lot of times it feels like they've got a different writer for the characters anyway, so they act a little different and react a little different than they would have in the past, or they feel like they would have in the past anyways. Well, they are definitely doing something different here. Now, the world is being completely overrun by the vines. Interesting. So I wonder if what we find out, and this might be an interesting reveal, is that slowly but surely after each chapter the world gets changed and it gets turned into the previous world, Tetra's world. That I don't think would be a huge surprise to most people though, because it feels like that's still possible, although there are some questions around that idea, certainly. And I don't know what that really accomplishes. And this is probably a great example of just how a world can have layers. So, like, you could kind of easily have a world like this and then put a Photoshop layer over it, and then it look like a world like this. And this clearly is just the same world with a Photoshop layer on top of it. And that at that point you don't even have to use a layering system inside your actual game. You can just render out each of the Photoshop layers once you're done with the production. Wait. Ooh. We've got something different here. Up until this point, they have let us skip the battle. I can no longer skip the battle. I click enable voice. It says, too bad, you have to play as something. And so I guess we're back to playing the game. We haven't been doing the battles since like chapter 3, episode 3. Maybe this is one way that they're going to stretch out the content for the new episodes. Maybe it very well was a situation where in the past you weren't able to skip battles, and only people who are late to the party, as I am, 4 years late to the party, maybe they just gave you the benefit of skipping up until this point. And it really isn't a major benefit, because I am still having to go and spend like an hour here and there to try and play these battles. There's also the danger that I'll not be able to actually win in a card game. This could easily already turn it into like a 2 or 3 hour experience.
Yet we find ourselves in a new mess. Perhaps this is merely the law of Natera.
And here we can see there's a new layer on top of all of this art. This idea of putting layers over the backgrounds is a great idea, and it should open up the door to them going back to some of the previous backgrounds and doing the same thing. Not the exact same thing. I don't think it would be particularly interesting if there was a technological world weaver effect on the worlds and the backgrounds of the chapter 1 or of the worlds of chapter 3 and 4.
Either way, this should be way easier with you here.
So Valdane now has a different way of looking at himself. He's saying, almost jovially saying, the only person I'll let kill me is my brother. Thus I'll be powerful and strong and positive. And this is only when you're going into a game do you get a loading section like this. And yeah, this is a different background than what I've seen up until this point, which I wonder why we wouldn't have him wouldn't have seen this in multiplayer play, unless of course it's a case where the the backgrounds only unlock once you've done it in multiplayer, in the single player experience. Also, they had her say a specific background line there. So I'm hoping I can just win here.
Which hands are the praying hands?
Like, in these cards so far, that card is spoken in English, but the most recent expansion has been more around the idea of the characters speaking in Japanese, and I'm still not sure if that's just because they have a delayed localization effect on the most recent expansion, or if they just have at this point given up on bothering to they've kind of given up on bothering to even try to localize to English. I mean, either one is fairly believable. Let's go play that. 3 damage. That guy. And then 2 there. And then end the turn.
Oh, come on!
There is a problem that I haven't been mentioning. There's a lot of criticism to the card game itself that could be addressed, certainly. But one of the things is that it says, like, "Oh, come on," a lot. Now, I don't believe in this deck I have anything that increases your experience for the number of nature trees you play, but I do think there is something that increases your experience based on the number of nature trees destroyed. And see, this Fairy Wisp you don't want to play because it will banish it if 2 or other cards have been played, so you want to actually hold it and play it when its fanfare is not enabled. You can kind of see that this battle is trying to introduce a bunch of cards, and I suppose that is a concept that I haven't been really thinking through. It has not been a consideration that might be what they're trying to accomplish here. Is a situation where,
Hey, let's play.
okay, this one, a ball, and then this,
I can't figure it out.
and then this,
My beauty, outclassed.
in the turn.
Let's play.
Let's have a sweet time.
I still haven't seen any of the main story focus around the demons and the vampires. This character does seem to have a lot of drain characters, a lot of characters in general that would potentially cause you trouble. Alright, well, let's see what we can do. Get rid of that.
I'm still hungry.
Hit that. Hit that. And then hit that. And play that one.
Let's play.
And go ahead and draw a couple cards. And this should be fairly good one to play next turn.
My sword serves as a powerful talisman.
Plume your wings with prayer.
Let's double check this. Return to allied cards. Yeah. That's what we want to do. We want to do this. And then this and this. And then let's see. What do we want to do now? I think we can go ahead and just take that one out. And do that. So I guess this is a good point to potentially show off that, hey, I can actually play the game on a rare occasion. And I have been playing the game in the background during the Monday, Wednesday, and Friday live streams. I'm not doing amazingly great playing the game by any means, but I at least here didn't have heavily struggle with defeating him. Unfortunately, we may end up having to do that quite a lot to get to the main story.
It's still not enough.
Yeah.
Simple as the weapon you wield.
I guess the idea
Take that as criticism.
was
It's not a
to have the
bad thing
main
to fly
story
forward.
give more characterization to really, really important legendary cards, whereas the battles in the main story were supposed to introduce generic
Suits us more.
expansion cards.
Whoa! You actually took it down.
The next one's yours. Left corner of the tip. Bore through it in one shot.
Right.
Left corner of the tip. Instead of shooting it directly in the eye.
Not bad, Otherworlder.
Worked. How did you know its weak spot?
The hungrier the animal, the keener its bloodlust. It's too soon to celebrate victory, however.
That didn't explain anything.
What do you mean?
Look for yourself. The vine hasn't lost its light. It could spring back to life at any moment. Only my curse is keeping it suspended. Pathetic, the paralysis is all I could manage.
So there's no way to stop them for good?
What? Just use your... Didn't you save this world alongside Mr. Lena? I swear, you are as exhausting as they come. Listen, the answer to our problems lies within you, as it does with your friend, Erica.
Interesting
or whatever
background
she
music
calls
and
herself.
story.
So it's something only Erica and I can accomplish.
It looks like you've got the gist of it. So be off with you.
Once again, it feels like the story is
I'll go find Erica.
trying to just focus on Erica and
What
Arissa,
about you?
which would be fine, but they should just kill off the other characters if that's what they want to
Just
do.
remember,
That would make it
look not
easier
at the
for them in the
earth
future.
below, but at the skies above.
Like, of the previous
Okay.
worlds, there's only
Be
been
careful out there.
like
If
2
anything
previous
happens,
worlds
I'll
we've
come running
seen,
back.
so you
we're
could
facing a
send
foe where
3
even
of the
I must
characters to
remain
protect
vigilant, then this world
the
finds itself in a more
2
dire
previous
situation than I
worlds, and
care to admit.
then you could
Now,
probably
I
leave
mustn't
somebody
waste any time.
on this world and Tetra's world, which at that point I feel like at that point though you'd have to have you on, Arissa, and Erica still as the main characters.
I have a job for you. But seeing that Managama
But I think that would be fine, particularly if you had like Arissa and Erica were capable of playing as different kinds of
very well.
craft
The
decks,
Ivy's weak point is located on the left side of its tip.
but then they
Quick
lose the
static should
ability.
immobilize it. Relay this information to as many as you can.
Yeah. You would at that point lose the opportunity to just force people to play just as Force Craft, without just doing it and not explaining away why that is the case. I imagine these ivy creatures are just directly connected to Baphomet. So they probably won't die ever. Unless he's just making the autumn. Like, there is a question though. What new power did Nerva give Baphomet that he can create robots when he couldn't do that automatically without giant factories in his own world? And at a certain point you get down to, is he magically creating these things, or does he have nanobots building them?
If I flex like this, then that part moves.
So it seems like he's...
Bam! Wriggly buds. What a cinch!
So he doesn't know how to control his own body.
Data collection. Been a hot minute since I've done any grunt work. And phase 1's only just begun. Next up, and this is my favorite part. Blow you all to smithereens. Oh, if only you all could see. If you could just sit down, shut up, and understand. Wait a minute. Someone's watching me. No. Smelling us. Disgusting. No one sniffs me out without my direct permission. Oh, you're gonna regret that. I had my own world and we threw it all away for this. So you're damn right I'm gonna take it all back. And that includes everything you've all fought to protect. Yes, indeedy, she's...
Who is the one smelling him?
She's gonna wither and she's gonna die when we suck the mana right out of her. Aren't you, Big Mama?
Again, this feels like this could have been a subchapter that just came out like one per month. Once again, I don't have a choice here. We're gonna end up playing. Now is Erica.
Just what are these wretched things?
And I suppose there is a very different experience if there is a 10 to 20 minute break of battle in between each section
They seem to be sprouting from the ground.
of story.
Perhaps they're rooted to something?
But
To Baphomet, I imagine.
I don't feel like that's a fair way to criticize a main story, particularly when you could skip the main story at least up until this point. If you were going to a movie and the movie had a 20-minute intermission, you wouldn't really want to calculate that intermission as part of the movie's experience.
We don't know why Baphomet has deployed them.
Although, in all fairness, if a movie needs an intermission, that typically is the case of a movie that's super long.
Regardless, I can sense a certain malice coming from them.
If he hoped to invade Natera, he'll need to muster more forces than a few tendrils. They are tough to cull, I'll give him that.
It'll be interesting, I suppose, to see if Miss Delina's manipulation of ether turns out to be useful here.
To test our metal? or both.
Yes. That sounds well
We still
within the realm of possibility.
didn't get a straight story as far as who Miss Delina's mother was.
Time for their master. Or at least that's the sense I get from this trifling amount of ether.
Still,
Yep.
none of this brings us any closer to knowing our enemy's motive.
Or clearly, the thing you would want to protect, regardless of whether you thought Baphomet was coming after it or not, would be the mother of this entire universe that keeps the entire world alive. Like, if anything, Virga Magma should have a temple built around her, and there should be an entire army and like fort built around that, and an entire country built around that. An entire society should grow up around protecting her at all costs, instead of just seemingly leaving her as a giant tree or near a giant tree. Also, I guess there was a question about the blight creatures. Did they just all disappear at this point? We don't have a really different background this time.
Well, let's see what you've got.
And that could be a fairly generic intro voice. Remember, I'm just playing pre-built decks, so it's not like the cards that I'm playing with are specifically picked for so that I learn something. Which, honestly, that would be the faster and more appropriate way to have a fight like this if the goal is to show off new cards and teach new strategies or how to play with new cards.
Where's my knight in shining armor?
But since that doesn't seem like that's really the case, they leave you to potentially lock yourself into this idea of thinking you know better and playing the cards that you've already gained familiarity with, which comes in direct contrast with the idea of rotation and taking some of the older cards out of play, even if they are rotating these recommended pre-built decks out of play, which I think they probably are, because these Levin cards, for instance, are a fairly newer expansion. There seems like, to me, that the Levin cards don't actually synergize so much as they should anyways. They seem like, at best, it's a concept where you have a bunch of 11 cards in your deck, and then they synergize with each other somewhat, and they just pull out a bunch of cards so that you can reduce the amount of cards in your deck enough to potentially have a different type of experience. Let's see.
Devotion thunders in my core.
You are done for.
Devotion binds our onward.
There we go. I might be pushing a little too hard here, and even though it's 11 to 20, I could potentially still lose here fairly easily.
I wasn't enough.
Okay.
You would be wise not to
And
underestimate
here we have
me.
Miss Delina with her Princess Strike ability. And nothing if she really evolves. So yeah, you kind of know that these pre-built decks are fairly new, at least along the timeline of the main story. Highest attack. I don't think this is gonna work, so we'll have to do this. We can do this.
It takes a thief to catch a thief.
We can do this.
My knight in shining armor.
And 11 cards. Do I have any 11 cards? No.
Let Tippy make it all better.
The 11 cards don't look like they're the rebels or the loyalists either. Let's see, what does this one do? So we get Storm for a 4/4. So it'd give me 2 play points,
You would be wise not to underestimate me.
which then lets me do this,
That is just. My hands are tied.
which lets me attack there,
Not bad.
which then lets me do
Easy peasy
this.
lemon squeezy.
You worthless. Oh, don't run away.
And still not really reason to evolve any of those characters.
Let Tippy make it all
The strategy of this game still feels really weird, how you can very much just get into a situation of a tit for tat with the opponent, to the point where you just really don't ever have a situation where you're guaranteed success. If I kill that, and then I do that, and then I do that,
When will I get my happily ever
and
Peasy
that.
lemon squeezy.
Oh, don't run away.
Might as well do something, so I'll put it 1 here, and then in the turn. He has only 2 more cards to play, but this seems to give ward to everything we've got, or everything they've got. +1/+1 to all allied followers. Let's see, do this,
brother. At your service.
do this. Do
Peasy lemon
this.
squeezy.
It won't be long now.
Go ahead and just evolve that.
Rally, comrades! This is our way out.
That one. That one.
I couldn't protect it.
It
Go ahead and
takes a
select
thief to
that.
catch a thief.
I've gotten down to the point where I always know I want this.
Not bad.
I couldn't protect it.
Odds of losing in the next turn are really low.
No one gets
Right.
past me.
Go ahead and just kill that.
Not
And-
bad.
What?
Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
I screwed up there.
Last breath.
I'll make you regret this.
See, that would be 4 extra.
Our way out.
We really wouldn't have needed 4 extra though. It definitely is a longer experience though, if you have to play the games.
Looks like it's working.
But it doesn't turn it into like a hour-long experience doing one battle. It turns it into maybe a 25-minute experience instead of a 5-minute experience, which is still a major increase in time.
Seems the cat's advice was sound. They may not be destroyed, but at least we've immobilized them. He did say limp noodles, as I recall. In any case, if we are to take out swaths of them, I'm thankful we have you and Arisa on our side.
I'd be a little surprised if this world had noodles.
Oh, Erica.
We haven't
You're so
actually
generous.
seen them grow any kind of like agriculture to the point where they could
You're
make a
blessed with
flour
grand gift.
to make a
You
noodle.
must merely release the ether that resides within. Normally I would do that
Oh, yeah.
myself, but it seems I've completely exhausted my reserves.
I guess it is
you
worth
shall have to take up the mantle now.
remembering that
Fine.
Virga
I'll
Magma
clean up the area and then
did
rendezvous with Arisa.
give some kind of magical
brave
ability
you've
to
become.
Arisa and Erica.
Between you and Arisa, I guess I've had good role models. Do be careful, Erica. Same to you, Miss Delina. You were chosen by the virtuous mother. If it were anyone else, I would have my doubts. But it shall all work out in the end, won't it? Most pressing now, however, is our enemy. Who is he? What does he want?
Curses. Just when this damn
Here we
forest
have
finally
Gina
found a bit of
showing
peace.
up again. When you probably could have just forgotten about her as a character.
That's right. Keep your heads held high. Your forest princess is here to bolster the ranks.
Those pests are really giving it their all to defy me. But it doesn't matter. Not one iota. Grinds my gears, though, messing with my tendons. You ever had
The
somebody
thing
continuously poke your
about a
fingers
world
with
like
needles?
this is
It hurts, damn it!
it seems like they barely showed
I have to continue digging
100 people at most that lived on this world, and it seemed like they all pretty much just lived off of whatever grew wild in the world.
Adjusting AI. Intelligence routine, level 1.
So
All
yeah, I don't
independent units act independently.
without
And that's how it's done.
without
Now,
agriculture and farming, societies tend to
nature freaks could put up such a solid
spend most of
resistance.
their life
To take
just
deeper
looking for
root.
their next meal, and they can never really develop higher concepts.
Why would we come to a world with so many trees? Ah! Oh, that's right. Nerves made me come here.
Is Belphemont forgetting what
Audacity. Can you believe it?
what happened just
Undermining me.
a few
My
minutes ago?
Our supreme authority.
It does seem like Belphemont might be losing his mind.
You know what they say? When life gives you junk, make death robots. That's what I've done
And
until now.
seems like he might find asylum, and
Isn't that right, nerves? Oh yeah, I know you're.
this is another case of
So bring me my
the
furies
lips
already.
barely being animated. That looks really terrible.
On with phase 1.
But if he does merge with Asylum in ancient technology, as far as we've seen, ancient technology really only is like a repository of knowledge. So unless he learns something from that, and that makes him more intelligent to make stronger robots, it's kind of a pointless acquisition. I don't think it is. Asylum is like the collection of people's minds from 1,000 years ago that are going to somehow be freed after Belphemont is defeated. Although that story would be interesting, because then you would have the old owners of a land fighting against the new owners of a land, and so there could be yet more conflict from that. But yeah, unless it's a repository of mana or a repository of some weapons technology, it's going to be fairly useless to Belphemont. It clearly wasn't useful enough for the ancients they lived on this world to make them survive. Their overuse of mana.
To destroy the entire world? You fiend!
And here we have another background that's just had another layer added to it.
Behind you.
Although I would say it's difficult to say that I've just like grown super familiar with the backgrounds in the as they used to be, to the point where this is severely off-putting. Part of that definitely is just the fact that it is so visually distracting to focus on the foreground characters, which is where you should be focusing, that I imagine most players wouldn't barely even looked at the backgrounds.
More? No, this one's different.
It seems like we'll probably have 3 or 4 different types of robots that we fight. I wouldn't be surprised if that's pretty much it.
So they come in different breeds, do they? You're not bad on the offense, but your defense is brittle. You are not
What really
worthy to
stinks
face
is
me.
that my daily quests for today have not started.
Another one.
So I'm doing these challenges and playing these games and not really getting any major benefit from them other than a default reward.
Are those new Rudy Noodles?
Means the fun's just getting started.
How did Gina end up with Miss
Play
Delina?
nicer.
They kind of skipped a point there.
So, you send in the shock troops right after the scouts.
Which honestly, you probably would have just solved a lot of things if everybody was in the same place to start off with.
I thought I could handle them with ease.
Which
but
I
at this
don't
rate,
know if that was the
no.
case or not.
Steel yourself.
Of course, you run into a problem now that these robots, they're not speaking, so we're just getting ... sound effect. But they are kind of jumping all over the place with an A plot, a B plot, a C plot with so many different characters.
Ha! Bad move. It knew what I was aiming for. Are they learning? I'm not sure how much more of this I can handle. He did say limp noodles, as I recall. In any case,
Here's
if
another
we are to take
flashback
out
we really
swabs
didn't
of them,
need.
I'm thankful we have you and Teresa on our side. And why's that? Oh, Erica, you're so dense. No, I must not falter. The people of this world will not give in, and nor shall I.
I guess a question
That's what you
often would
taught
be,
me, Orisa.
does her
A
putting
lesson I'll
magic
never forget.
into her blades always benefit her?
Huh?
Or does it sometimes not help her or waste her magic?
Rescuing me now?
Like fighting
You've
robots
come a long way, haven't you?
may
I'll
not
take the Vanguard.
be
And handle the
beneficial
other
to
one.
fight like this.
Got it. One
Or maybe it
quiver
is.
full of pain coming right up.
And here we have a slightly different palette swap on the same
Don't worry. I've got
background. I'm not trying to go particularly wild here. And when you have situations like this where you can either play as Forcecraft or Swordcraft, you kind of... I would have thought there was a chance there. Obviously it wasn't the case that we would have an enemy with 40 health and you would play as one character, and then when that character died you'd play as the second character with another 20 health. That's at least what I would have thought might happen.
Don't hurt me.
but they don't do anything like that. They just kind of give you options, and then you play a standard 20 health game, which does open up a question, I suppose, as far as perhaps there isn't, perhaps there just is not enough room in the way game is designed to allow people to play a 40 health challenger.
It's time to conquer a new domain. Back to the earth.
Because you'd think at least in the previous boss fights we would have been given a different kind of challenge. Although at a certain level, it might just be a testament that this game is just so well designed that it doesn't actually need to play those kind of games, and it actually is such a balanced experience. It works without any of that, without any trickery or changing of the basic rules.
Good night and good luck.
There we go.
This isn't your average bow. The heavier the bow, the faster the arrow.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, and 4.
May the forest be at peace.
We're playing it decently well here, so I might have a bit of a challenge. Alright.
Help me, Faye.
This,
I'm
then
gonna rest
this,
for a bit.
It shoots well, but
and
you have
then
the weight.
this, and this, and 1,
Let's play.
2,
Let's play.
play
So
this,
many colors of guidance.
and then evolve this.
It won't be long now. Guidance breathes through you.
And then take
This
that
way.
out. And play that.
Let's play.
That should put this here.
Grown up here.
Okay.
Let's play.
He has 3 cards, and I have 4 health.
You won't escape.
So, if he's just got a couple with Storm, which he did, I wasn't gonna win there. Now, does that make me think I'm going to lose every single time? No. I think we probably just need to let's try Thorned Anomaly. We probably need to just play something that has more ward creatures, or something with a little bit more of a deck built around possibly defeating this type of deck, which happens a lot, frankly. That it's fairly often that I'll run into a challenger that plays just a slightly different style of forest craft or whatever craft they're playing, and you do have to put up a different kind of attack or defense there. I don't think this is a game where they are actively balancing against whatever deck I have and trying to defeat me that way.
Tank of the 100 rings.
I'm gonna rest for a bit.
Let's see. 2 damage, put a fairy in your hand.
If
must abandon me.
Versus playing a dark elf.
This isn't your average bow.
Better than in the cradle.
Oh, come on! Come on!
This is a fairly powerful card. Let's see how are we gonna do this. Start by doing that. I think that'll work rather well.
Play.
Then it's probably not the right move you want to do, but we'll see.
So sparkly. Yeah.
It shoots well, but damn the weight.
My supremacy surpasses that of dragons!
And this is a legendary card. Okay. What can we do? Change an enemy follower's defense to 1.
First things first. Shoot.
Then we can do that.
It won't be long now. Prepare to get time to fly.
Shutting down.
I flew too high.
Playing a lot of cards.
This makes no sense.
Do you see why I am without equal?
Well, that level of protection is now falling apart. Restore the number of shadows. I don't even have shadows. Why would I have this card in my deck? For a forest craft. This is a crazy card. Alright, well, play that. Play that.
Let's play.
If I pull this off, I'll be very surprised.
Technology whets these claws.
Oh, come on!
Let's see. I mean, I could play this and evolve it to an 8/8. That might be the best thing we can do.
Beautiful, powerful,
Let's
and
try
cute
this.
to boot. This ends here. I'll blow you away.
Goblin Mage.
Ooh, sparkly stuff. Gimme.
Enemy enter a snowman.
Ooh, it's freezing. Fire!
Should have been sharper.
But yeah, nothing I'm gonna do is gonna win.
Oh no!
Yeah, we're definitely in that danger zone. Yep. And unlike previous cases, you can't just skip it. Alright, so the hero is 4 lightning speed. We could preview the decks, and if you knew the cards particularly well, previewing the deck might be useful. But I'm just gonna have to assume that lightning speed means something useful. Having the card description load up during the loading screen is nice, but you don't see that if you aren't actually going into a battle, so we haven't been seeing that. Instead, we've been seeing mostly just a separate loading screen that just teaches you basic things like what ambush is and what storm is, things that you probably already would know. But I guess also you would see that loading screen very less often. This is Monica Cloud Hall Admiral. I don't know if she is going to be actually in the story or not. But you can definitely see how something like Samurai here, probably not in the same expansion as Monica. There's just a different style of background here. You're more zoomed in on the Samurai's features. I would fairly certainly believe that this was a early card from a different animator completely than this. Whereas even Jolly Roger and Monica seem to be somewhat similar in theme, even though I would say Jolly Roger is more of a non-anime style of animation, and Monica looks like it's a fairly standard anime style of animation. So, game +1/+1 if 3 or more enemies are in play. Well, I guess that should work.
What an ugly bunch.
Nope. I guess the answer to that was no, it didn't. It needed 3 other enemy. Oh no, it was 3 or more enemy followers are in play, so it was never going to actually activate.
The 100 rings.
Okay. This one has rush, where I could attack. I could just leave it alone. I think I'd just leave it alone. This does seem to be kind of like a theme around pirates. I wouldn't be surprised if it's sky pirates, like floating, flying boats. This will now activate. I could evolve it to attack with it if I want to. Probably it's not a bad idea.
This fight's a snore. Turn to rust. Turn to rust.
Fly to the earth.
You won't escape.
This one only evolves when the spell is cast.
What the heck?
Okay, what have we got? Randomly gain Rush Bane Award. Summon a Knight. Evolve, deal X to enemy follower. X equals the number of allied followers in play. Summon Lumious King. Can evolve an allied commander following each turn for 0. Okay. Let's do this.
My sword brings hope. It won't be long now. Shining Paladin, attack!
You can only evolve one thing at a time,
Suffer
though.
by my blade.
So I think it is worth mentioning that much. So even though this card does allow your commanders to evolve for free, that is your only one evolve. You can't, at least I haven't seen a way where you can evolve.
Take up my shield.
We may just have to break up this experience. Let's see. Rush Bane Ward. You got Bane. And that's the last thing I can do.
Ain't a finer arm in all the 7.
Excuse me.
Caught me off guard.
I guess what we'll have to do is we'll try one more game and then I'll have to reevaluate. Do I want to just pause the video and do I want to pause the video and try and play off screen, or do I want to just wrap up the video because we've been going an hour and 15 minutes anyways.
We haven't lost yet.
This was definitely the danger of trying to cover the main story previously, in the sense that you did have this chance of, at any point in the previous episodes, the game coming to a screeching halt and the story and the narrative coming to a screeching halt if you just can't beat the challenge. And it's hardly like we're even being challenged by anything special. We're just being given a pre-built deck that is way better than the pre-built decks that we've seen before. +1/+1, put a random card in your hand.
To arms, brother. At your service.
This does 3 damage to enemy follower, so we should wait. This definitely feels like a deck that I'm playing that's around buffing up a specific character. I'm not sure which specific character. Just trying to see. So it's summon a card. This would put something in my hands. Can't play that.
To arms, brother. At your service. No one gets past me.
Good night
Do
and
that.
good luck.
It's our way out.
You wouldn't.
Okay. So I can put this in the field without rush. I can do this against this guy.
Satisfied.
And it's just gonna do this, which is +2. And I can do this. And
You're done for.
then I can do this.
Revealing your riches, eh? Don't mind if I do.
And so I'm gonna try and heal this guy. I guess that's what our goal is. Just keep this guy alive. So much for that thought. Well, here's another one.
Therefore, I take.
This is the disciple of usurpation. So usurping seems to be a standard idea. Go ahead and just evolve her.
Hard to quench an eternal yoink. That's mine.
Darn it. That was pointless.
Yep, this is all mine.
And
Yep, this is all mine.
guess that's increasing her health. And that increases her health the whole time. What did that say? Whenever you play a loot card, gain +1. Alright, so that was the one to focus on. It is worth pointing out, though, that I still have yet to really figure out the pre-built decks even. Alright. Gain +2. Holy Pure Bomb, Fatal Spell Bomb in your hand. I don't know what either one of those do. It's 5 play point, banish an enemy follower, 1 play point, destroy an enemy follower with 3 defense or less. I think select this.
Too carried away.
Is this a loot card?
Sleep forever.
Conquer a new domain.
Let's see.
No one gets past me.
Good night
Hit
and good luck.
that.
Yoink! That's mine.
Now, this is strike, which means I can just do that.
This is all mine.
You won't escape.
Might be able to win here.
Brave, know what I mean?
Shutting down.
Hey, I do the taking
All
around
right
here.
already. I surrender.
Okay. Enhance chose 2. 1 + 1. If I do this, then I can do that later. Gotta evolve this now.
There are none who stand equal to us.
I can play this.
Mercy becometh justice.
Burn! Freeze!
Missed the landing.
Ever seen a mecha lance? Our vengeance will yet come.
Let's see. Do I want to do this or do I want to do this? Let's try this. Here we have a 5/4 with Bane and Ward. That sounds good. Let's see. That sounds good too.
Time, Siegfried.
Alright. So this one has an attack, this one has rush.
Cinder.
Kill it.
Farewell, sweet land.
Do that. Maybe there was something I could have played there to guarantee my victory, but I'm not sure.
You're nothing to one who's best in
It does
class.
seem like there's a lot of cases where there are instances where it feels like you will win, but there's a lot of instances where you won't win. So I'm
Let's
gonna
speed
play
things
this
up.
safely and do this and this. Why did that not work? Let's just kill that. Well, it was getting a little desperate there at the, that I was afraid we weren't actually going to be able to win. But you can definitely see how that was like a 30 to 40 minute break between the stories, so I can't even really tell you what was going on in the story other than they were fighting these robots, version 2 of the robots, and that's pretty much all I think actually was happening in the story.
Said that we have to work together.
There very well may be a case here where in the quality assurance and the testing of the game, they had all the testers play the game and play the card game while they were going through the main story over and over again, and that may have affected the flow of the story and how it was written.
Brave children.
Like this flashback, for instance, is good regardless of whether you were playing the levels, playing the card game or not, or just skipping the battles. Because this is a flashback from the previous episode, and
I guess I feel a little warm.
it does actually remind us of something that we haven't seen in a while.
Arisa?
Whereas other flashbacks and repetitions don't make any sense. And frankly, there's a lot of times where they flashback in repetitions that don't happen even when there isn't a battle. So they'll sometimes just repeat things and then repeat things, and then there will be a battle, and then they may repeat it a third time.
Give us the words to use your blessing.
I can feel it.
So it seems like
Traveler, carved from the distant past. Come forth as verdant wind. Be our wings as we invoke thy name.
So we're getting a different kind of animation and a power creep.
Homebound warrior, carved into the distant future. Come forth as crimson flame. Be our
See, that
blade
looks
as
like
we
a different
honor thy
outfit
form.
also, which frankly, that would be appreciated. But where they learned those specific spells and those words, I don't know.
I feel light, like I've become one with the wind.
But they do look different.
I'm burning up with heat the likes of which I've never felt before.
Yeah, this is kind of a major improvement if they stay on this outfit, because like her little maid outfit isn't flipped up, the skirt isn't flipped up, her cape, while still floating in the air, is not as wide and as crazy. This does also open up the door. Now if they keep that outfit and that look, the other characters can get a redraw on their look too. And I guess it would be probably fairly easy for Yuan to transfer the power to the other heroes.
Have unlocked their hidden potential.
Or perhaps Arisa and Erica just give the ability to the other heroes.
Power. Well done, you two.
Yeah. And see, Rowan doesn't really need a power creep increase, but it would be helpful if he got a new outfit. Eris has recently realized she has the ability to heal, which is nice.
That was intense.
There's still a lot of like high fashion decorations still going on in their outfits, but it does seem like an improvement. I wouldn't have minded though if they had changed it a little bit more to a completely different outfit. Yeah, it would be fairly boring, for instance, if like Sailor Moon's outfit, when she got a new fighting outfit, it looked like 90% similar to the old outfit. Like, you want it to be closer to recognizable, somewhere around 40 and 50% familiar, but then you also want to have some obvious new elements added. And see these robots.
No matter, my pity, having been created on such a green world. Anyway,
so he apparently found some old robots. And
Mama, your power's gonna be mine. It's just
I kind of like the idea of him just calling her Big Mama instead of throwing out Virga Magma, which is hard to pronounce or remember how it was pronounced. And now we're seeing the Furies.
We open the curtain on phase 2. Just how long can you dance before my puppets grind you to dust.
So did he rebuild the Furies, or were the Furies always here? That's the question. Phase 2, Havencraft. I don't even know which of these decks would I'd be best with.
What trickery is this?
See, these robots don't look exactly like the robots in the previous world.
They're completely different from the metallic vines from earlier.
Yeah, she had already seen a robot that was just kind of decommissioned. So Eris is actually the last person to be surprised by this. And here we've got another background that's been modified. And while they did have Letica throw out a lull, she still doesn't feel as crazily voiced as, or crazily written as she has been in the past.
Perhaps we can find answers within Natera's past.
Probs? They do seem like real old. Think someone's pulling their strings?
It must be the work of Baphomet, which means his attack from before was merely the beginning of his assault.
See, Eris is really now being written more as just kind of a investigator support character. I mean, she already is a healer, so she was already a support character. So I don't know why you wouldn't potentially at least give it a thought to turn her into like the Oracle to Batman type character, someone who stays in one place, stays on one world, and investigates things remotely, and then communicates information when it needs to be communicated to the other leaders, the other travelers. That would solve a lot of issues, certainly, because there's definitely been times where people have had to go from point A to point B just to relay a message. Whereas if Isabel or Eris, or both together, figured out a way to magically communicate amongst dimensions and between the leaders, then Eris could simply be watching through the eyes of the other heroes. Let's see. Yeah, that would be a good way to get rid of Eris as a character, since she is fairly unhelpful for most of the time. She could show up at the big battles, and they could call in for Eris and say, "We need a healer, Eris. Come help us fight." But for average battle versus average battle, she's one of the least interesting characters to pay attention to.
I mean, magic and chic, it just makes sense.
Of course, the idea here is that they're doing this because they want you to play Havencraft cards. And thus, you run into that issue. Where
the skies in the name of justice.
They kind of want you to play Havencraft cards, thus Eris has to be in the story. Once again, you solve that by just having Eris and Erica be able to play different kind of cards, Havencraft cards, or whatever. There we go. Let's see if this works.
Punishment. Repent.
Seems like I'm probably in a decent position to win. So it's quite the collection of robotic cards.
Justice does not hide in the shadows.
Okay. Three damage on the 10th turn. Banish for 1. Or banish for 2.
10 hot.
Let's go ahead and draw.
You were done for.
No, my license, give it back.
Let's see. Did this reduce the union burst of card? I don't think so. Interesting.
I'm not a quack. You'll see.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna actually win here. There's a lot of synergy happening here.
No! No! No!
Yeah, I'm about to lose.
Walked into the wrong forest, friend.
Okay. Get rid of that. That is all I can do.
The real battle begins.
And Mouskers
I am feared and respected.
again reduced the union burst of that character.
Pounce. No, my license, give it back.
We might be able to survive one more turn, but the odds of the odds of succeeding here seem pretty low.
They wield far greater strength.
And it is definitely questionable whether a defensive strategy is the right strategy for something like this. Yeah, let's try this, but I have no idea if that's the right deck for this or not. And I guess since we're now in 40 minutes now into this, we probably should give up if this doesn't work after this battle. Like, maybe I'll give it 2 more chances, but even if I do succeed after this battle, it's questionable whether we should continue going forward. It's always a shame when there's just some inconsistency in how much gets accomplished in an episode, but I try to keep these episodes somewhat similar in length. Okay. Is that really the card I want to get rid of? Okay. This one says whenever you play a Namaka card, deal 2 damage to an enemy follower. That would be Machina card. This one could also be repaired 3 defense instead. So I probably should do that later.
My hands are
Make a staff. Put a unicorn spear in your hand. Rush strike summon the assembly droid.
Fly with your heart, not your wings. I got this.
Verifying access.
Try
Okay.
hard much? You were done for.
Emergency mode. Enemy identified. Please, throw him back out.
So I'm trying to pay attention here.
Verifying access.
I'm not a quack.
This one draws a card every time machine a card has been played.
Guess my heart wasn't in it.
There we go.
Rest for the weary.
Shutting down.
That's a nice card. At the end of your turn, if this follower didn't attack this turn, destroy all enemies with 2 or less defense. That worked for a second. Can't take more than 3 damage to the turn. We've got some free repair modes.
The real
We
battle
can go ahead and evolve.
Fear not a body of behold refinement.
Nice. Wait, could that one have attacked? Shouldn't have been able to attack.
What do you think you're doing?
The body is but a relic.
So,
Behold
take 7 damage there. In the turn here. Might be able to win here.
Go home, your mom is calling. What do you think you're doing?
I'll be back.
Let's see. Play this
The
again.
body is but a relic.
Unicorn restores 3 to an ally, deals 4 damage, and restores.
Be strong in the face of evil.
Okay. Still a high chance of losing here. Like, I've got to kind of ward and exhaust his cards.
Technical solutions for magical problems.
He's just drawing more cards. And it's a reminder to point out that we've never seen anybody actually run out of cards.
Abandon your mortal lives and be saved.
Okay, this can evolve.
Let us conclude.
The congregation, they call for me.
Whenever an allied magnet follower is destroyed, put a Salvation X limit in your hand. This effect is not stackable and lasts for the rest of the match.
Throw your life away.
Go home, your mom is calling you.
Let's see. Heal. And should have killed that somehow. I don't know how we really are going to accomplish killing that. I could heal back up, but it kind of doesn't matter.
This reminds me of the good old days.
try that. Let's try that. I'll take that one.
Divine punishment.
Fly with your heart, not your wings.
Try that, I guess.
I got this.
Verifying access.
No, my license.
Attack
Give it
there.
back.
Let's go ahead and heal. Go ahead and heal again. And then the turn.
Better a glorious death than an ignominious life.
Now this is the cutting edge.
Yeah, unless I can just get a massive amount of damage.
Ride the wave, know what I mean?
Now I need a Havencrafter Machina follower to reduce the price of. He's down to 14 cards, which would be great if it weren't for the fact that that's not going to be good enough.
Summoning divine punishment. Summoning divine punishment.
Alright. Let's, before we do anything else, let's see if there's
Enemy
a
identified.
justification for trying to take out somebody.
Shutting down.
Summoning divine punishment.
Yeah, I don't think this is gonna work.
Throw back out.
You can play that. You can play
Fly
that.
with your heart, not your wings. I got this.
Verifying access. Throw back out.
Yep. And just like that, we've lost.
They wield far greater strength.
Maybe there was, if I killed one more Machina card, maybe that would have solved, would have done something, but I don't think so. And yeah, the daily missions now are happening, so. Okay, well, as it is, unless they've just been really sneaky here and made it so that you can skip this on the second attempt, which it doesn't seem like that's the case, I am just gonna have to play off screen to get this battle done. We'll start the next recording on phase 6. It does certainly open up a lot of questions as to whether there really would be a episode 10, because I kind of don't believe it now, which does kind of make me then think that New Story chapter 9 through 14 are just hopefully the last bits of the story for this episode and everything's wrapped up. And ideally this would hopefully be kind of the end of the main story for a while, like a year, just to give them more time to really think about what they're doing and what needs to be done and what doesn't. I guess since I have a replace, I might as well replace it. Meanwhile, we had a reward that could be claimed in animated basic cards, and we still have enough free packs that we're getting that it's justifiable to open yet another Fortune's Hand pack. Not that I'm really expecting too much from these Fortune Hand packs at this point. We're pretty much just getting copies of the same thing over and over again, which goes to show that they're very much, well, that was a good draw. I suspect going forward, I would be better off just opening like 50 packs and having big pack opening streams instead of having a single pack opening as a reward, because it's not super satisfactory. Deepwood Wolf, return an allied follower amulet to your hand. I think I had at least one of these cards, but I may not have had 2 or 3 of them. Then we have a gold Vampire of Calamity, which is maybe the first one of those we have, so we should check that out. And then we have Defensive Strike, which may be the first one of those that we have. And here we have Lorena Ironwelled Priest. Put a Lorena's Holy Water in your hand during this turn when defense is restored by a leader. If it's the second time, gain the ability to evolve for 0 evolution points. And here's Lorena's Holy Water, restore 2 defense to an ally. Now, we haven't run into any character named Lorena though. We almost certainly have like 5 to 8 of those cards. 5 to 8 of these cards. This is maybe our 4th or 5th werewolf. And this is probably 5 to 8 Ghost Maid cards. So yeah. Fortune's Hand as an expansion. More and more has been done, will be done. You're unlikely to see too much more. So yeah, we had 1 new copy of this, where we have like 6 unanimated copies of this, and then 1 animated copy of that, which the animated versions are the things that are just going to confuse the issue more and more. Like it really does double the price. We had 6 copies of those. We're still missing this card and this card. And this card and this card. And this card and this card and this card and this card. And that one, that one, that one, and that one. And that one, that one, and that one, and that one. And that one and that one. So yeah, of 8 pages, we still have probably 1 full page. So we're like 7/8 of the way done for the most recent expansion to get those cards, which really just goes to show the variety there. If we were to liquefy things right now, we'd get 9,650 vials, which is actually quite a lot. But I definitely haven't had the free time to do the daily quest to get a bunch of temporary gems, where getting temporary cards would probably be very helpful if I had a ton of temporary gems. I haven't actually looked at the shop to see if there is a way to get temporary gems. At a certain point, I guess it might not really be smart to get temporary gems. And it might be smarter to buy just the cards themselves, which at the shop, if you were going to buy cards, you would buy pre-built decks, wouldn't you? Yeah. Buy the premium currency, look at what the pre-built decks offer you. Almost certainly the pre-built decks are going to offer you something that is full of cards that would be helpful. Although in all fairness, the most recent set 7 of pre-built decks only goes up to Ultimate Coliseum, where with the cards themselves, Ultimate Coliseum does not include World Uprooted and Fortune's Hand. So whenever that next expansion comes out, that will be the next collection of cards, and it probably does indicate that at least a couple of these cards from set 7 will not be playable, which would kind of devalue the pre-built decks unless you're going to play in unlimited format. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.